Okay. Hey, Ione.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi. Today, you are with me, and I didn't give a disclaimer the last few times, but if you just don't like what you hear, just move on. You don't have to say anything about it. It's just not for you. There's millions and millions of people out there in the world. You'll find your place. So, if you're interested in what I do, keep listening. And here we go. Today, I went to Boston for the first time this 2025. Wait, yes. In June. Couldn't even remember. And I've never been interested in Boston per se, but I love the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really thought about how old. I know it's really old. It's where our country started. The point is, I was in an area that is one of the first cities ever, and actually their zip code is 1776. That should tell you something. So there's a road there that is the first road in Boston area that the mail, it's called Post, because that's where the horses and the mail would be carried, or the post they called it. And apparently it is said that some of our forefathers had been in this tavern that is like 350 years old or whatever. Anyways, I kind of became a little interested more in like the history of America. Or, it's Thanksgiving time, 2025. So like you hear about pilgrims and colonial times and the Native Americans, which is really who we should be focusing on in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But right?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's because they were here first,
Exactly.
the Native Americans, the natives. So, but here's what happened. I happened to be watching or checking out PBS, local PBS, and the Ken Burns. Who doesn't love Ken Burns? And he does, as you know, incredible documentaries about topics. And I caught the Civil War. And it took him, I got a little bit of notes here, but let me see if I can. So watching the PBS series, or some of it, because it's long, took him 10 years. So he worked with two other producers or filmmakers, a woman and a man. And then when he wrote the book that accompanies it, his name is something Ward. But what was really awesome was I'm clueless. Here I am, you go to public schools, you have to sit through horrible high school classes about the Civil War, and you're bored out of your brains. I realize now, listening to his documentary, it's because it's not told well.
No, it's not.
It's not. And they make it like, I don't want to say glamorous. It was fucking brutal.
Yeah. I mean,
brutal.
I feel like yeah, I wouldn't say glamorous is the word, but they definitely do like downplay it.
There it is. Well, okay. So apparently Ken Burns,
all history they down.
Huh?
I feel like
Yeah,
that's with everything.
I
Like
agree
in
with you.
schools,
I
everything
agree
is
with
just
you.
downplayed. Yeah.
100%. So this film for Thomas Jefferson, he did in 1997. So I'm going to give you a rundown of some of the things he's done if you would like to go look these up and then maybe, watch the documentary. It is, I think if you get the CDs, it's like 8 or 10 CDs from PBS. Anyways, Thomas Jefferson, he did, and it says this film is perhaps his most direct coverage of the founding father. It explores Jefferson's complexity as a statesman, philosopher, and individual with contradictions. His role as both author of the Declaration of Independence and an enslaver, because he did both. Now, I went to Montpelier, doesn't matter. Find out. That's your job, people. Thomas Jefferson's home. It's escaping me. I went there. It's really quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Mount Vernon was Washington's. I think it's Montpelier. Anyways.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, Google it while you're on. I'm
Okay.
working here. Thomas Jefferson's home. You can go visit it. It was amazing. He was one of the only people at that time who actually had a large library. Not everybody can afford a library. He had it full of books. What's the name?
Monticello?
Monticello. Okay, I said
Monticello,
Montpellier. That's in France. Monticello. Okay? And it's beautiful. But you know, he was in love with his slave. His one slave, you could see the whole, they had in his bedroom, actually, I believe, there was a floor cut out and she was living under his bedroom, that she could come up into his room. I think she had like 4 children with him. Anyways, the point of it is, Ken Burns, he did Thomas Jefferson in 1997. He was a very complex man, actually, because he lived, it looks like, on 2 sides of the fence. Benjamin Franklin was his second one in 2022. Co-directed with Ken Burns' team, this series explores Franklin's life as a scientist, go science, diplomat, and one of America's essential founders. I'm going to look into that. I've never been fascinated by Ben Franklin. Thomas Jefferson, a little bit. Number 3 he did was Washington. And I'm getting to this because the documentary that's out now, The Civil War, is where I'm headed. So Washington. Ken Burns did not direct a documentary dedicated solely to George Washington, but other filmmakers have created notable series. For reference, the History Channel's Washington, which was out in 2020. And then the next thing is broader themes. Burns documentaries on the Civil War, the national parks, America's Best Idea, and the Roosevelts, An Intimate History, often discuss the legacy of the fathers and their influence on later generations. Now, I will tell you, I've seen a good portion of the Roosevelts. He really did remarkable things. He's the one who developed our national parks. He was an avid hunter, as you know. Well, maybe you don't know. He loves to hunt all kinds of animals. And he really was instrumental for parks. Yeah. So I've seen most of these parts of him. Yeah. All right, but notable points. Founding Fathers as a group. No single Ken Burns documentary focuses exclusively on all the major founding fathers. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Franklin, Madison, and Hamilton together. Okay? So just bear that in mind. He does a little bit of everything in everything, but I think this Civil War one, he pulls a lot of it together.
Right.
You know, his style, of course, is historical methods include deep archival research, interviews with historians, and narration, and often uses really primary sources. I mean, Ken Burns, when PBS was just showing the Civil War this last weekend, they interview him in between. But it took 10 years to make this. It takes that long because the Civil War is brutal. Anyways, let's see here. Ken Burns books, blah, blah, blah. So the Civil War is one of the most acclaimed documentary series in American television. And here's the breakdown. Now, I don't understand. They said it was released in 1990. An overview. That was shocking to me. I thought that was new. But, I could have just missed out. 9 episodes, 11 hours total.
Wow.
You know what's nice, Ione? You can take a break.
Exactly.
You don't have to sit
I
there.
love TV shows because you can break it up.
Totally. And that's kind of like when Avatar came out. It was almost 3 hours. People freaked out. But there was a break in between at the movie theaters.
Wait, I don't remember that.
There was a break.
I guess I was too young to remember that.
They do take a break.
I kind of feel like I never even saw them in theaters.
Yeah, you're too young.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
No, I didn't, because I didn't want to sit there that long.
Right.
So my friend, who is an Avatar nut, said to me, I have the DVD. I'll come to your house. We'll put it on, and we can stop it when you feel like you got to get up and move. But so 9 episodes, 11 hours. That's a lot of TV.
That is a lot of TV.
And I'm going to tell you, when you start listening to the narration and the quality of the information, I was overwhelmed. All right. So, by the way, here's what's really cool. The narration is David McCullough. Notable voice actors Morgan Freeman, who doesn't love his voice? Sam Waterston, love him. Julie Harris, I don't know who she is. Jeremy Irons, yum. Kurt Vonnegut, and among others. Okay, here's what makes it special, apparently. It's his storytelling style. I think he doesn't have this mono kind of tone with all the different voice actors. But let's see what they say here. Ken Burns pioneered a technique known as the Ken Burns effect. Gently planning and zooming over still photos. The visual style paired with an evocative music and narration. I can live without some of the music sometimes.
Yeah.
Brought old photographs and documents dramatically to life. And that is what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are no photographs of the Civil War. There's paintings.
Mm-hmm.
So in the documentary, it'll be a painting, but with the sounds of the gunfire and, like, let's say the horses neighing and the dogs
It's
barking.
immersive.
Yes, that's it. What did you say?
Immersive.
Immersive. It's immersive.
Mm-hmm.
You're there.
Mm-hmm.
You're there. And then he used reenactments,
Yeah.
right?
That definitely brings in a viewer.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I like that. Brings in the viewer. Ione's very talented about music, movies, like video. Like, this is her gig.
Thank you.
That's why she's here helping me. Okay.
Yeah.
The series covers the American Civil War from 1861 to 1865. These men were tortured. These men walked states, not just a few miles, states in the dead of winter. The frostbite damage was sickening. I felt so, like, just for a second, imagine you are walking across the wilderness where there are bears, wolves, other tribes, Native Americans, civilians who you're on their property, and you're on a horse that's freezing and needs food, and they're dropping dead from disease and starvation and frostbite, like their fingers are falling off. I was like, holy shit, am I happy to be an American? Like, Thanksgiving, we brutalize the Native Americans. I don't give a shit about Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for other reasons.
Yeah.
But when I caught parts of this, I am now dedicated to finding these DVDs and watch it. I had no idea. You know, you think about war, and you, of course, but I'm born in the 20th century, and I think of war as in the way we're fighting with Gaza and Palestine and, Ukraine and Russia. Now we use drones.
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch Ken Burns' documentary, he was immersive. Imagine you are walking from, let's just say, Ann Arbor to Maine in the dead of winter with some damn leather boots on that are handmade from deer pelts. It was brutal. These men killed each other because they lost their minds. Anyways, Ken Burns did an amazing job. First of all, I didn't realize that the war was 61 to 65, 1800s. From causes to consequences, exploring battles, politics, social chains, and personal stories. Drawing on diaries, letters, speeches, and newspaper accounts of the era. He was able to pull this together. And there are some families that are Civil War buffs, and they have history. Their family has good documentation.
Mm-hmm.
So he utilized as much resources as he could to get this to be very authentic.
Yeah.
And then here's the human dimension that I thought was really spectacular, the parts I caught. The documentary places strong emphasis on individual experiences, from soldiers and generals to civilians and enslaved people, making history deeply personal. And I'll give you a quick snippet. These, not the Americans, but either the French, there was also a huge German enclave that we fought. And by the way, the reason we don't speak German is because at that time, The French won. And the reason we don't speak French is because we won, the British. But there has been mentioning that if that didn't happen, we would all be speaking French or German, not English. So anyways, but they had accounts, sadly, of these British troops coming and landing in off of Lake Champlain and Ticonderoga or something. It's a long word. But they literally murdered the children, raped the women repeatedly, stole the daughters, murdered the men, and the British did this. Well, first of all, we were trying to abdicate from the king, right? We didn't want the Brits' rules, and they were fighting. And then we were dealing with the brutal environment, but I did not even think of that the Brits and these other enclaves would actually come into these small villages and decimate them.
Yeah.
And the women, he had writings that he would highlight. The women would talk about what they did to them. It made me, I had no idea. None. Like, in many ways, the Civil War, because it was primitive, right? We had guns and bayonets and bombs and big cannons, but it was as brutal as the wars we fight today.
Yeah.
The women and children are tortured. They're stolen, made slaves. And here's the crazy part. I didn't even think about this ever. Is that these large bodies of like 1,500 soldiers would come into a town and they were starving and cold and whatever. They would come in people's houses and take it all. Take their food, their clothes, everything, and leave these people to die or kill them all and move into their houses.
Yeah.
If they were in that village or that was one of their camps, they would. Anyways, Ken Burns brought this to life. I had no idea. All right. And then commentaries from leading Civil War historians. I mean, things that they study, right?
Right.
They add like this real rich content in the way that they told the story. They were the voices of history. Of course, they use analysis of like what kind of transpired and what most likely could have happened between the two opposing bands of soldiers, between the French and then that doesn't even. I had no. You know what I also didn't know, Ione? There were tons of ships involved because New York is all water and Maine and Connecticut, right? So they all came into that port of Champagne, and with I know the word Rosacanda, something. I'll have to look it up. And I'm being funny, but I don't really know it. I don't say it well, but it's in my head. But there was a point in the documentary where like the United States were hiding like along the coast around this tip, and that they came out and they faced the French, and there were like 15 ships and 10 ships. And you're not going to believe this. They poured sand before they went into battle, like as they were approaching, sand all over the deck to absorb the blood so that they didn't slip and fall, the ones that were alive. And that the ships were just blown out of the water and these men would fall into the water and drown. And that sand to absorb the blood. I just thought it was eye-opening. And then, of course, apparently the music, the score, including J. Unger's haunting Ashkogan Farewell, has become legendary in its whole right. So we have to look that one up. So apparently this series won over 40 major awards, including 2 Emmys, a Peabody Award, and a Producers Guild Award. That's pretty impressive. And I'm going to tell you, I love documentaries. I do like historical. I don't generally like war. But I realize this isn't about war per se. This is about 4 years of incredible sacrifice by the Americans that were here that didn't want to live under British king rules, religions, and all of that, and that they were willing to give their lives on the daily so that we can have North America. I had no idea. None. So, cultural milestones they have listed here. It changed now documentaries approach, historical topics, settings, setting a template that Ken Burns has used for decades. And here's a couple things, topics that are covered in this series: causes of the war, slavery, states' rights, and sectional conflict. Major battles and military campaigns, key figures: Lincoln, Grant, Lee, Frederick Douglass, Clara Barton, etc. Life on the home front, the Emancipation Proclamation and Reconstitution and the legacy of the war. So, anyways, I hope that this just kind of excites people to go investigate as it has me. I cannot wait now to have a better understanding because I never got that in high school. Mm-hmm. Never. Those books never talked about raping the women, taking over people's homes, and literally these bands of military men would come in and literally take all their clothes, any food that they had. So there was no food. And some of them had to just leave their house. They kicked them completely out. I can't even think about that happening to you and I today.
I mean, it's happening to people
all over the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ain't that the truth, lady? So look at that. 1861 to 1865. And we're in 2025.
I know.
And that
and it's
shit's still happening. You're not safe anywhere. Mm-hmm. And you know, did you, on a side note or a tangent, one of the things I also often forget, women are still unsafe.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. It doesn't matter where they are.
Even in the safest neighborhoods like Ann Arbor.
Yeah. I mean,
statistically, we're very safe.
I'm not sure where this happened, but did you hear about that woman who was just killed by her coworker because he didn't like her?
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He just killed her.
Yeah, women are still number one targets. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, you think, well, you only have men and women, so it's 50-50 chance. I'm thinking sometimes, I'm like, when they think, well, only women, well, it's not like we have lots of other varieties of humans. So it doesn't matter. Women out of the human population, which is what? I think we're a little higher than men. I think there's more women born than men.
I think it
was 6-4, something like that.
Something like that.
The point is, we are, and then be a black woman, you are targeted even more.
Yeah.
Because But I'm going to, and then add a religion. So I have a Nigerian who's staying with me, a professor. And during 2000, when there was a huge civil war against the Muslims attacking the Christians, which they're still doing. It's the one thing Trump recently said. He's going to he'll send people in if he has to because the Muslims are killing the Christians. So not only women are at a greater risk than anyone there. If you're a Christian, you're dead. Period. Your children are killed and the mothers are killed. Today. And it's happening now. And in 2025, my professor who stays with me while he's here on sabbatical working said he was running when he was a young man during that Civil War. He was running, and he was running for the air base, the U.S. air base. And he said the guy next to him, they just set on fire. And they were killing babies and just slashing them. That fucks you up. How can you, and he still went on to college, and he's got his PhD, and he's had 3 children. But he even says, my boys can't go out. They're Christians, and they may never come home. I can't even imagine. The point is, women are still a target. So we got to do better, people. Got to do better. So the Civil War opened my eyes about the freedoms and the luxuries and all of the things that I didn't realize how many men suffered for us to be here. So I'm going to watch this series, Ken Burns, The Civil War, and see what happens. Maybe I'll learn. Oh, I know I'll learn a lot more. All right. Let's sign off. Ione, that was a long one. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ciao.